Welcome to the video series Transforming with SteepGraph, PLM for SMBs, featuring Lars Peder Hansen and Chuck Nyberg. Let's dive into today's topic. Key insights you will learn. Challenges for SMBs with PLM. Traditional PLM systems often don't fit SMBs due to cost and complexity. Large vendors may not cater to the scalability needs of SMBs. Importance of flexible solutions. Low-code/no-code PLM options are more adaptable and budget-friendly. These solutions can seamlessly integrate with existing processes. Value of a partnership approach. SMBs benefit from working with PLM vendors who act as partners, not just providers. Partnership ensures tailored support and alignment with business goals. Future growth with PLM. The right PLM system can streamline operations, reduce time to market, and drive growth for SMBs.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this SteepGraph Tuesdays video. Today we're going to talk about PLM for small and medium-sized businesses. My name is Lars Peder Hansen. I'm here with Chuck Nyberg, who I know has done a lot of studies on this subject here, so it's going to be interesting to hear Chuck's take on this. So I'll jump right into it and pose a question to you here, Chuck. When we're talking about PLM in business as such, you often hear the claim that small and medium-sized businesses have unique challenges and unique needs for PLM. And you even hear people say that PLM is not for small companies. I've heard that a few times and thought, well, maybe not, maybe. So Chuck, can you elaborate on what's so special for PLM in the context of SMBs, as we call them, and can we define SMBs at all to a useful level in this context?
Yes. First, I can understand why people talk about PLM not for SMBs because it's hard. It's not as easy as working with larger companies. So I can understand that thought, but because SMBs are unique. First of all, there's not even a single definition of an SMB, or another way they call them is SMEs, which is smaller medium business enterprises. But they represent what 90% of the businesses globally, employ like 70% of the people, and represent a huge like 70% of the global GDP. So they're huge. But again, it's funny. There's not a single definition. Definition is really dependent upon country, number of employees, income, and even industry, depending on where you look at it. But for this conversation, I think we'll just stick to something where a small business tends to be someone with less than 100 employees and has an annual revenue of $50 million or less, from 0 to 50. So, and mid-size tends to be, again, they have between 100 and less than 1,000, 999 as they say. And they make anywhere between $50 and $1 billion. So they're just, like I said, this is just arbitrary, but it's kind of what I've read. That's kind of what it is. Again, it differs in country. But it's interesting is not all SMBs are equal. For example, I know we just say SMB, but for example, in the US alone, over 80% of the SMBs don't have any employees. So I can see where that's difficult for a PLM system to try to do that. And the other thing is the other difficult piece is age, or where a business is within its life cycle. So here's some statistics I thought was pretty interesting. Is like in the US, by the time after 10 years, about 70% of SMBs fail. In the UK, 40% of new businesses survive more than 3 years, but in the first year, about 20% die. Australia, about 60% of small businesses fail within the first 3 years. So it's pretty unstable looking.
Those are staggering numbers, really.
Yes, but you gotta understand that's why high risk, right? These guys have an idea, they're hoping it's going to make it in the market. And of course, some people learn on the fly. But survival is also dependent on the industry. For example, mining. has the highest failure rate after 1 year. In fact, 75% fail after 10, where like arts and entertainment has like 19% failure rate after their first year. So industry also determines how they're going to survive. But in the end, these businesses survive or fail. They tend to fail because, number one, which is not surprising, they run out of money. They can't get these huge loans like big businesses. They usually bootstrap or have their own money from themselves or family members. So they run out of money. The product they thought was going to work great, there's no market for it. They didn't do the research. And then a big one is regulatory or legal challenges, especially if you're in a highly regulated. That's very costly. And of course, competition is a big one as well. So obviously, one major reason it's difficult to listen to that. One of the major difficulties in selling to a PLM to an SMB is that for the first few years of their life, they're just focusing on surviving. Are they doing it right? Trying to get employees or not in this case, right? So the cost of a disruption of moving to a PLM system would be just too much, right? They're just not ready yet. In reality, a lot of companies aren't going to be ready if you look at it till maybe past the 10-year mark to make sure that they're stabilized, even to even think about it. So, which is interesting. So you have to choose those, right? So what are those 30%? And oh, by the way, out of that 30%, over 80% don't have employees. So that makes it harder. It makes it more difficult to sell a PLM when there's no employees, because it's assumed there's people there to collaborate, right, and share information. So as you can see, so finding an SMB to sell PLMs to is a heck of a lot more effort than large companies, right? Large companies basically have more resources, more people, more needs, and they're more stable. So I can see why the PLM vendors are focusing on them. There's less risk.
Okay, I find those numbering of how many companies actually survive their first 10 years quite staggering, and I can see why that would leave the question of PLM way out there in the future for many of these company owners. But provided that some of these companies actually look into getting PLM in a more serious way, and they have the option to do it. In your view, what can be done to make it their entry into PLM easier? Are we talking cost reduction, cheaper PLM systems, so to speak? Are we talking simplified PLM systems, more modular, so that you could start small and simple and grow as you evolve as a company? Are we talking in that context also cloud-based PLM? Is that the future for these small companies, or what do you see should be done to make it easier for them?
Well, I think the first thing they have to understand why they even need PLM. So SMBs, like normal business, but especially SMBs, because they're very sensitive for any change. They usually purchase software really to reduce cost, improve productivity, replace technology they've outgrown. Of course, they want more customers. They may expand offerings and collaborate. But that's just to sell PLM because it has these neat features won't work them. And you got to really understand how is it going to help them, right? And they're very sensitive on the most sensitivity is really on cost and the impact of the negative impact of business. Is it going to disrupt my business, slow me down versus speed me up? But the thing is, one of the things is usually a lot of these businesses don't even have an understanding of PLM, right? It's not like PLM is taught in school like CAD is, for example, right? And then also, even if you start talking PLM, these people, SMBs hire people for the skills that bring immediate value. I'm going to hire you because I need you now. So they really don't have anybody in their group that's even skilled in PLM. So that's a problem as well. And then what I've noticed too, and you hit the head, right? PLM also it seems a little bit very complex. So it's almost like they almost think, okay, here's just another IT project. It's just going to take too long. It's too rigid, because SMBs are flexible. That's one of the differences is they're highly flexible versus and less hierarchical. People have different have many different responsibilities, totally different than large businesses. But they also lack of trust in vendors are growing, right? So, they did a survey. I saw a survey that says 50% of the SMBs don't trust vendors that they deal with, especially the large vendors, right? Or they talk to the vendors, they say, yeah, 80% of the SMBs trust our customers trust us. So there's even that gap. Because again, the SMBs think that they're there to sell a software. They don't care about their success. They just care about selling software. So even how you approach has got to be different. So there are things that can be done, right? Like we talked through. So one is to educate the small business owners, small medium business owner, right? There's many ways to do it, but the education needs to be done, or you're not getting anywhere. Some of the things you hit on. So it's got to be minimal disruption, right? Quickly deployed, and a smaller learning curve because they would need to have it right away. And I think what would help too is if they can be proven that there's immediate quantifiable return on investment. Low cost, obviously, as well, right? So low costs, not only on the software, but also the infrastructure, ongoing support. Since they don't have anybody, they need ongoing support as well, right? So and then they also want to start small. So it'd be nice where usually you get a PLM that gives you all these great features. And again, to me, it's like using Excel, right? I'm starting out Excel. I'm not going to use the hundreds of things Excel will do, just a small piece. Same thing here, but they just want to start small and then gradually, as they get better at it, introduce features as needed. They don't need it all right now because it's kind of too overwhelming. And that's the complexity issue that they see. It's just way too overwhelming. And then they also, again, with not skilled personnel, it's got to be no code or low code. They should be able to make changes because they think they're different, and they are. They may be unique. They got to make some changes to the PLM that fit them. But of course, they don't want code. So it's no code to be the best, right? Or low code, just very minimal effort to make changes to fit their needs, like add an attribute or something. As well as then even the vendor relationship, right? We're not here, the vendor shouldn't be there to sell software. They should be almost like a trusted partner to guide and support them. They got to be a partner, take some of the risk with them and minimize that. So, you can see why, all in all, you can see why it's no wonder that large PLM vendors are focusing on large companies. It's just a totally different mindset and probably a lot more effort to work with SMBs, right? So that's the other thing. And a lot less money because they don't have the money nor resources that large businesses have.
Okay.
So it's interesting.
It's interesting. Yes, exactly. Well, you just described what the PLM vendors are doing or should do here, but could you elaborate a little on the question of, are there any signs that the PLM vendors, we all know the four big ones, but there are more, of course, that the PLM vendors will actually address these special needs of SMBs in the future? Or should the SMBs turn to dedicated PLM consultancy companies to reach their goals here? I think it's very interesting if we see some of the big vendors give this market more attention. But do you see it going that way?
Yeah, they have been giving attention in the past decade or so, actually. But the way they tend to do it is to scale down their PLM system, which is quite large and complex. So now it's, instead of a large, complex PLM system, you get a smaller, complex PLM system, right? So, and I know some are working on SaaS now, but they're trying to focus on flexibility. So, and out of the box, but still, the problem is even making it smaller, the cost and complexity are still high. They can't seem to go over that. So it prevents some. So again, it's really hard. It's I don't know why they do it, but it's been shown that going from big to small doesn't work. And they found out. I mean, there's some minor successes. In fact, what's funny is there's some smaller vendors that actually were making inroads to PLM for small businesses. They're purchased by a bigger company, and then after that, they failed. So it's interesting. And then, so what I thought was interesting here was I was looking at CIMdata had a 2024 PLM Industry and Market Forum. So in it, they said basically large PLM vendors are still focusing on selling to large business. That's their main focus. That's their bread and butter. They make billions of dollars. And with that, because as you saw, it's a higher effort to sell and support small businesses. So it costs too much for the vendor to do it, and it's also too costly for the SMBs. PLM is still way too much money. You're still talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and these guys don't have it. So what's funny, there was a summary that says, until now, no PLM vendor was able to scale down from selling large enterprise PLM systems to SMBs. So again, they're still they have yet to be successful. But it's what's funny was they did a survey. I thought this was funny too, which explains why it's not only hard to sell to SMBs but other even large, is that 15%. They took a survey of businesses that on CIMdata, and like 15% think PLM is mission critical.
15%, okay.
Yeah, 15, yes, 15%, yeah. Which that tells you the difficulty even going for big businesses, let alone small. So if that tells me that there's really no inroads. There's no one that even stands out on trying to sell SMBs, right? Just like even today, there's really no standout for large businesses. They're all basically equal. Some make more money than the other, but it's nothing. There's no one that really stands out.
Do you see that change in the near future, or do you think it's going to be that way?
I think it's going to take, honestly, it's going to take a small business vendor to understand small businesses, right? Because they have more empathy, they know what they need, and they are quicker to, and of course, whatever PLM is used, they could still use third-party PLMs, but the PLM they use has got to be modifiable that they can fit the supplier's needs, right? There's many things that could be done that you've seen. There's templates, there's automatic setups. There's a lot of bits and pieces out there people are trying that could collectively do a much better and reduce costs. But I just think we're selling Cadillacs to SMBs. And when they're first starting out to drive, you want to give them something that they can crash in, whatever. Just something that's smaller, affordable, because it's just starting out, and we've got a lot of people owning Cadillacs trying to sell to these smaller companies. And I don't think they understand. But, I think there is an opening. I think it can be done. I think it's just going to take a lot of focus, especially on making these SMBs aware that they do need one, and it does address whatever needs they may have. I don't know. What do you think on what you've seen?
Well, I've been looking at signs also from the big vendors to see if they were having something in the pipeline, and I haven't really seen anything. And as you say, they seem to be happy by tending to their large customers and making the millions of dollars there. So there is certainly a market for something new and something different, but I'm uncertain of whether that will emerge right now.
So no, but it's an opportunity, though. As you can see, that it is an opportunity for someone to go in because it is a wide open field. There's small ones out there that are doing well, but a lot of people are, like a lot of the SMBs I've looked at, are using CAD, SolidWorks, right? So SolidWorks has a kind of a PDM system, so they're kind of using that to start off with, which PDM makes sense. But from there, they get stuck after a while. Because you grow, you're going to need more complex stuff. But it's a starting part. And that's the other piece. You're going to compete with these PDM systems, which is really, at the start, that's what people needed to start as a PDM.
Right. Okay, our time is running here. So I guess it's time to try to sum up a little. From what I understand, first of all, we must distinguish to some extent between small businesses, the very small ones, and the mid-sized enterprises, but they do have and are up against the same obstacles when it comes to PLM. financial issues. Some of them even struggle just to survive with very few employees. So even though PLM could bring significant benefits, and as you just said, we need to make SMB owners aware of that. Some of them, or they can get benefits, but they're often not ready yet. They do make
or unaware, right? The other thing is
ready or unaware. That's right. Yeah. They don't move to PLM even though they are aware and ready, because, well, funding is an obstacle, of course, and lack of knowledge about what PLM can do for them, combined with the fear that it's way too complex for them to use.
Just a note. I mean, sorry, as a note, just think about it. When you went to PLM, it usually took weeks to install a PLM system and weeks of training, right? So a small business that may have 10, 20 employees can't absorb that.
It's just not going to happen for them. No, that's right. And at the same time, we see PLM vendors continue to focus on the large enterprises. Some of them, as you said, have tried to serve the smaller customers by simply scaling down their PLM product from, as you put it, big and complex to small and complex, but none have really had any success with that yet. So it continues to be costly for SMBs, and the main challenges are still the complexity and doubts about the value, even if they manage to use the weeks you talked about. They have doubt about the value of these conceived, at least, complex PLM implementations. Yeah, I guess that's how much.
So a note on that, though. Yeah. Like I said, one thing they need to show it, they need an immediate ROI, right? Prove to me that it's going to help, for example, right? And I know one of our previous podcasts we talked about ROI, and I think that is, again, since they live day by day, so immediate ROI does make sense. So being able to measure that and show them, look, it's working for you, would be great.
Yes, and that's, as we also talked about, as you said earlier in another video, that's a complex thing to do, but it's if you get it right, it is possible. So that was it for today about PLM for SMBs. Chuck and I are here at SteepGraph, and you are more than welcome to reach out to us with your questions, comments, ideas, criticism.
Summary of the video is: small businesses encounter numerous challenges with product lifecycle management (PLM). Financial constraints and limited staff often make survival difficult. Mid-size enterprises also grapple with financial limitations, alongside concerns about complexity and return on investment. Despite attempts by PLM vendors to adapt their solutions for smaller businesses, the focus remains primarily on large enterprises. Scaling down existing PLM products has proven ineffective, leaving SMBs facing high costs and ongoing issues related to complexity and uncertainty about the value of intricate PLM implementations. Question for you. As a small or medium-sized business, SMB, what do you consider the biggest hurdles in adopting a PLM system? Do you see a need for PLM in your operations? What would encourage you to transition to PLM? Would it be more affordable pricing, a user-friendly interface, or cloud-based solutions? Would you be open to a model where you can begin with essential PLM features and gradually expand as your company grows? This way, you can start with a minimal investment and add functionality as needed. Get insights on PLM for SMBs from the experts. Have questions? Our team is here to help. Connect with us for personalized guidance or visit our website at www.steepgraph.com. You can also drop your queries at marketing@steepgraph.com.